It started with a single leaked email, one that no one was ever supposed to see. An attachment buried in a long thread of messages between lawyers, assistants, and accountants. All quietly trying to erase the kind of paper trail that could destroy a man's legacy. When fans first caught wind of what was inside, social media exploded, because according to that email, Kirk Frost, the man who spent years denying every rumor about his connection to Jasmine Washington, had allegedly signed a secret contractor binding agreement, promising her $200,000 in exchange for her silence until the year 2025. And now, the silence has shattered. People are calling it the deal that kept love and hip-hop running, a quiet pact that may have shaped entire storylines and kept one of Atlanta's most complicated scandals hidden for years. The whispers started when an insider, someone close to Rashida's boutique, claimed she found fragments of a scanned document inside an old company hard drive. It wasn't just the money that made it shocking. It was the date. The supposed expiration of the contract, January 2025, meaning Jasmine was finally free to talk. Just as the new season began filming, fans immediately connected the dots. Was this why Jasmine had suddenly started dropping cryptic posts about truths finally being paid in full? Was this why Kirk looked so uneasy during his last interview, stumbling over simple questions about loyalty and trust? The leaked details describe a non-disclosure agreement, dressed up as a business partnership, a modeling consultation deal worth $200,000 over 7 years. But those who know Kirk say he never pays anyone without reason, and certainly not that kind of money to someone he supposedly cut off. And when people started cross-referencing old episodes, interviews, and public appearances, the timeline fit too perfectly. The tension, the sudden distance, the emotional outbursts on camera all began right after 2018. The same year the alleged contract was signed. Rashida's reaction, according to sources, was nothing short of devastation. She reportedly confronted Kirk after seeing screenshots of the leaked email online, demanding to know if it was real. Witnesses at Frost Bistro described the scene as a meltdown in slow motion. One staff member claimed Rashida threw her phone across the room and said, "So this is what loyalty looks like now." Fans say her recent posts about betrayal, healing, and finding peace even in public embarrassment make a lot more sense now. As the story unfolds, everyone has something to say. Jasmine is quiet but watching. Rashida is fuming but composed. Kirk, he's trying to keep business as usual, pretending the chaos doesn't exist. But the internet remembers everything, and this time, it's not just gossip. It's paperwork, signatures, and a promise worth $200,000 that might just rewrite everything we thought we knew about the Frost family. And if this contract is real, then the truth about who knew what Tandwin might be the biggest love and hip-hop scandal yet. The night the leak happened, Atlanta didn't sleep. Bloggers were typing faster than ever, hashtags were climbing, and everyone was whispering about a document that could end Kirk Frost's entire reputation. It was the kind of scandal that makes even the most loyal fans question everything. At first, people thought it was another fan theory, but when the screenshots dropped, everything changed. The images showed Kirk's alleged signature, Jasmine Washington's name written right below it, and a set of conditions that looked way too personal for business. The internet zoomed in on every blurry corner of the photo, trying to catch even the smallest detail that could prove it fake, but the longer people looked, the more real it felt. And then came the most chilling part. The clause that said effective until January 2025. According to insiders close to production, this wasn't new. Some crew members had apparently joked for years that Kirk's peaceful silence with Jasmine came at a price. They said Jasmine would show up to set with designer bags and new cars, yet never explain how she got them. Now, it all made sense. Those quiet years weren't healing, they were business. One insider whispered, it wasn't love, it was leverage. And that phrase caught fire across social media. Suddenly, every old clip was getting replayed, every look between Kirk and Jasmine being dissected. Fans began connecting scenes that once seemed random, the tension between Rashida and Kirk, Jasmine's emotional confessions, the way Kirk always seemed to dodge questions. It was like watching an entire puzzle finally snap into place. Only this time, the picture wasn't pretty. Rashida, who had built her brand on strength and forgiveness, was reportedly blindsided. One of her close friends told a gossip page that she didn't even believe it at first. She thought it was an edited image, another rumor made up to hurt her marriage. But when she confronted Kirk and asked him straight up if it was real, his silence told her everything. He didn't deny it. He just said, "It's not what it looks like." But in Atlanta, those words never mean peace, they mean war. People who were at Frost Bistro that night say she walked out mid-conversation, her face pale, her hands shaking. Staff members said they'd never seen her like that before. She left through the back door, refusing to let the cameras follow her, whispering, "If this is true, then I've been living in a lie." Fans were torn. Half blamed Jasmine, calling her manipulative, saying she took advantage of Kirk's guilt. Others said Kirk was the one who used power and money to silence her, controlling the narrative for years while Rashida unknowingly played the part of the loyal wife. No one knew who to trust. And Jasmine, she didn't say a word publicly, but her Instagram told another story. Just hours after the leak, she posted a photo of herself holding a coffee cup with the caption, "Freedom has a price." People lost their minds. Thousands of comments flooded in, accusing her of confirming the contract, while others praised her for finally breaking free. It was the calmest confession anyone had ever seen. Behind the scenes, though the situation was far from calm, production meetings reportedly turned chaotic. Executives were furious that something this explosive had leaked before they could spin it into a storyline. They wanted control, but the internet was already 5 steps ahead. A former producer claimed that Kirk tried to convince Mona Scott-Young to issue a statement denying the document's existence. But Mona, being the media genius she is, allegedly refused. Denial feeds drama. She supposedly told him, "If you're innocent, let time prove it. If not, the ratings will." That one line echoed across the cast, and everyone knew what that meant. This was about to become season. As the story grew, fans started pulling receipts. They remembered the time Jasmine went quiet right after Kirk's public apology to Rashida. They remembered how Jasmine moved out of Atlanta around that same time, claiming she wanted a fresh start. But what if that start was part of the deal? The alleged contract mentioned distance and discretion, hinting that Jasmine had agreed to relocate and avoid interviews. And yet, the exact timing of her return just as the agreement's expiration approached felt too precise to ignore. If the leak was real, it meant she'd kept her end of the deal for 7 long years. And now that 2025 was only weeks away, the silence was ending, just like the fine print said it would. Kirk, meanwhile, was trying to keep his composure. He showed up to his restaurant as if nothing had happened, greeting customers, laughing, taking photos, pretending like the internet hadn't just exploded with his name trending next to ContractGate. But those who saw him in person said his smile didn't reach his eyes. He looked exhausted, distracted, constantly checking his phone. One customer overheard him telling an employee, "Don't believe everything you see online." But the irony of that statement didn't go unnoticed because for years, that's exactly what he'd wanted everyone else to do, believe only what he showed them. In the middle of the chaos, Rashida reportedly reached out to Jasmine privately. According to a source close to both women, she wanted answers, real ones. Jasmine agreed to meet her at a neutral spot, no cameras, no managers, just the two of them. Witnesses say the conversation was emotional and tense. Rashida asked her, "Did you really take money to disappear?" Jasmine hesitated, then said, "I took peace where I could find it." That line alone broke the internet when it leaked through an anonymous tip to a gossip page. People debated its meaning for days. Some thought Jasmine was admitting guilt. Others said she was calling out Kirk for forcing her silence. Either way, it confirmed that there was something real behind the rumors. And if that wasn't enough, another shock followed. A mysterious account began posting what appeared to be scanned pages from the alleged contract itself. Parts were blurred out, but fans could make out sections about confidential communications, financial terms, and something labeled as liquidated damages for breach. The number beside it, $500,000. Meaning, if Jasmine spoke early, she'd owe $500,000. That clause alone made the situation 10 times darker. It wasn't just hush money, it was control. Kirk's name appeared again and again in those screenshots, alongside a company called Frost Enterprises. By now, it wasn't just gossip. It was documentation, even witness statements from people who claimed to have seen Jasmine meeting with Kirk's accountant back in 2018. The emotional toll on Rashida grew heavier by the day. In her recent live session, her eyes looked tired, her voice shaky. She didn't address the contract directly, but said, "Loyalty means nothing if it's bought." Fans instantly tied it to the scandal. The comments flooded with messages of support, calling her a queen for standing tall through betrayal. But others wondered if this was finally the thing that would break her completely. She'd forgiven Kirk before. She'd rebuilt her image, her business, her marriage. But how do you forgive a man who allegedly paid another woman to stay silent about your marriage for years? How do you move on from that? Still, even in the storm, Kirk tried to maintain the same narrative he always had, that he made mistakes, that he and Rashida had moved past them. But now, those mistakes had paperwork attached, signatures, and a timeline that didn't add up. Every move he made seemed to feed the fire. Every statement he avoided looked like confirmation. And Jasmine's quiet confidence only made it worse. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She didn't post rants. She just watched. And that silence after 7 years of it felt louder than any confession could ever be. By the time the week ended, the Frost family was divided. Kirk's older kids had reportedly stopped speaking to him, embarrassed by the media circus. Rashida's business partners wanted distance from the drama. And the producers of Love and Hip Hop were licking their lips at the chaos, already planning how to weave it into next season's plot. Because in reality TV, pain sells. And this pain had money written all over it. The streets were buzzing. The fans were waiting, and the truth, whatever it was just starting to unfold. The following week brought a new level of intensity. Every post, every story, every gossip column seemed to circle back to that leaked contract. Fans dissected Kirk Frost's social media like forensic investigators, highlighting his cryptic posts and private story uploads. One post, a photo of him with Rashida at Frost Bistro, had the caption "Some truths stay buried," which sent the internet into a frenzy. Was it a subtle admission? A threat, or just a man trying to keep appearances? Insiders claimed that Kirk was growing increasingly paranoid. Friends say he rarely left the house without checking for cameras or journalists, and every call he made was under scrutiny. "He's walking on eggshells," one former assistant said, and for the first time, you can see the fear in his eyes. Meanwhile, Jasmine Washington became the unspoken center of the storm. Although she maintained her silence publicly, she started meeting with several trusted friends and former colleagues, reportedly preparing herself for the moment she could finally speak without breaking any legal agreements. Sources close to her say she never asked for money for 7 years, not until the contract supposedly guaranteed it. She waited patiently, kept her head down, and never let the world see her frustration. Now, as the 2025 expiration loomed, people began speculating what her first words would be. Would she attack Kirk directly? Would she reveal long-hidden secrets? Or would she quietly collect her payment and disappear, leaving the internet to spin its own narrative? The tension between Rashida and Kirk reached a boiling point. After the leak, several staff members reported shouting matches at Frost Bistro. One witness described a scene where Rashida confronted Kirk in the kitchen, her voice shaking with anger. "How long were you planning to lie to me?" she demanded. Kirk reportedly tried to calm her, but his words fell flat. Another employee said Kirk muttered something about protecting the family, which only enraged Rashida more. "Protecting the family," she shouted. "By paying a woman to keep secrets? Is that how you protect us?" The entire incident lasted nearly 30 minutes before Kirk stormed out, leaving a stunned staff behind. The footage, captured on an unseen security camera, leaked the next day, igniting another wave of media frenzy. Fans were relentless. Every old interview, every behind-the-scenes clip, every casual mention of Jasmine became a potential clue. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. Some believed that Kirk had manipulated the entire cast of Love and Hip Hop to cover up the contract. Others suggested that Jasmine's quiet demeanor had been a strategic move, silently influencing the storyline while collecting what she was owed. Social media debates were heated, with thousands of fans posting side-by-side comparisons of old episodes to highlight moments where Kirk's behavior seemed suspicious. The fandom had never been this invested. The drama didn't just stay online. It started spilling into public appearances. Kirk was spotted at a charity event, avoiding direct questions about the contract. Paparazzi followed him relentlessly, snapping photos of him whispering to associates, looking visibly tense. Meanwhile, Rashida was attending fashion events with her boutique team, often making statements that fans interpreted as indirect digs at Kirk. "Loyalty and honesty go hand in hand," she said during an interview. The subtlety of her words wasn't lost on anyone. The media ran headlines suggesting a full-blown marital rift, and the rumor mills churned nonstop. But the real bombshell came when a mysterious tip revealed a handwritten note, allegedly from Kirk to Jasmine, dated back to 2018. The note was brief, almost clinical, promising her financial security in exchange for discretion. The wording was precise, the tone transactional. It read, "As agreed, $200,000 will be provided for complete confidentiality until the agreed-upon date. This protects all parties involved. Thank you for your cooperation." Fans erupted. The note felt like a smoking gun. Social media debates reached fever pitch. Memes, reaction videos, and fan edits flooded platforms, each trying to interpret the nuances of Kirk's intentions. Some claimed he was controlling, others defended him as a man trying to navigate messy circumstances. Either way, the leak fueled unprecedented drama. Inside sources reported that Kirk's family was fracturing under the pressure. His parents, who had always been loyal public supporters, allegedly questioned his judgment in private. One insider claimed Kirk's father said, "We raised you better than this. Secrets and contracts aren't how you handle family." Meanwhile, his siblings were reportedly caught in the middle, unsure whether to defend him or confront him. The family dinners, once portrayed as harmonious on reality television, had become tense, silent affairs filled with suspicion and unspoken accusations. Rashida's allies also began strategizing. Friends suggested she hired legal counsel to investigate the authenticity of the documents and the financial arrangements. She reportedly declined at first, hoping to handle the matter privately, but the leaks made discretion nearly impossible. Social media users discovered her boutique's sales patterns, suggesting she may have been quietly diverting profits to herself amid the chaos. Insiders hinted that some of her moves were subtle forms of retribution, a way of reclaiming control in a situation where she had been blindsided. And then came the whispers about the cast. Crew members hinted that other cast members knew more than they were letting on. Some claimed that Mona Scotchung had advised certain cast members to keep their mouths shut for the sake of production continuity. This added another layer of tension. Fans speculated whether the show's storylines over the years had been influenced by a secret pact between Kirk and Jasmine, and whether others were complicit in maintaining the illusion of normalcy. The narrative seemed bigger than anyone had imagined, sprawling across personal relationships, professional obligations, and public perception. Amid all this, Jasmine reportedly remained remarkably calm. Friends said she was carefully planning her next moves, weighing what to reveal and when. The contract's terms reportedly allowed her to speak freely only after January 2025, and she had been counting the days. One source claimed she even drafted multiple statements in advance, each tailored to different outcomes, whether she would confront Kirk directly, release proof to the public, or negotiate further terms remained a mystery. The anticipation of her next steps kept fans glued to their screens, speculating endlessly. By the time the month drew to a close, Atlanta was a city on edge. Restaurants, boutiques, and filming locations all seemed to buzz with whispers. Social media engagement reached record highs. Every post from Kirk, Rashida, or Jasmine became a potential headline. The tension was palpable, and insiders hinted that the upcoming season of Love and Hip Hop would be defined by the fallout. The world watched as alliances formed, loyalties shifted, and emotions ran high. It was more than a scandal. It was a masterclass in reality TV drama, unfolding in real time, with real money, real emotions, and real consequences. And just as people thought they'd seen the worst, another twist emerged. An anonymous source claimed that Kirk had secretly transferred part of the $200,000 to a trust under Jasmine's name years ago, suggesting premeditation and careful planning. Fans debated whether this was proof of his guilt or an act of protection, further complicating the narrative. The line between betrayal and strategy blurred. The stakes had never been higher, and everyone knew that the next revelation could change the story entirely. The internet waited with bated breath. News outlets scrambled to verify claims. Bloggers refreshed their feeds every few minutes. Fans created countdowns to January 2025, anticipating the moment when Jasmine could finally speak. And somewhere in Atlanta, Kirk, Rashida, and Jasmine navigated the tangled web of secrets, money, and power that had defined the past 7 years. Every glance, every whisper, every calculated move mattered. The story was far from over, and the drama had only just begun. As January approached, the tension in Atlanta reached a fever pitch. Fans were obsessively tracking every social media post, every interview, every casual appearance by Kirk, Rashida, and Jasmine. Conspiracy theories ran rampant. Some claimed that Kirk had been manipulating storylines on Love and Hip Hop for years to cover up the contract. Others suggested that Jasmine's quiet demeanor had been a strategic move, silently controlling the narrative while waiting to cash in on the deal. The city buzzed with rumors, and insiders whispered that the cast themselves were divided. Some fully aware of the contract, others kept in the dark. Rashida reportedly struggled to process the revelations. Friends said she oscillated between disbelief, fury, and heartbreak. In private, she demanded answers from Kirk, but his responses were evasive, carefully measured, almost rehearsed. One friend recounted a confrontation at Frost Bistro, where Rashida's voice trembled as she shouted, "How long were you planning to hide this from me?" Kirk allegedly replied, "I did what I thought was necessary to protect everyone." The staff later described the scene as electric. Emotions ran high, tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Meanwhile, Jasmine's actions were closely monitored by fans and insiders alike. She remained quiet publicly, but sources say she was meticulously preparing for the day she could speak. She reportedly met with legal advisors, strategists, and a few trusted confidants, ensuring that every word she would eventually release aligned perfectly with the contract terms. The alleged contract, now widely circulated online, stipulated that she could disclose details only after January 2025, meaning that fans were now on a countdown, anxiously waiting to see what would happen when the deal expired. Production insiders revealed that the leak had thrown the cast into chaos. Mona Scott-Young, as always, reportedly sought to capitalize on the drama for ratings. Meetings were said to be heated, with producers debating how much of the scandal to weave into the upcoming season. "We can't ignore this," one insider reportedly said. "It's bigger than any storyline we've ever had." Other cast members were caught off guard, some attempting to distance themselves, others quietly strategizing how to align with Jasmine once she finally spoke. The internal tension mirrored the public frenzy, making every on-set interaction charged with suspicion and anticipation. Fans began to analyze old footage frame by frame. Moments that once seemed insignificant, a glance, a pause, a subtle smirk, were now seen as loaded with meaning. Clips of Kirk and Jasmine at events. Their interactions, brief yet carefully choreographed, were scrutinized as possible hints of the secret contract. Every social media post, from mundane coffee selfies to business announcements, was interpreted as a coded message. The speculation was relentless, and the pressure on the trio grew heavier by the day. As the story unfolded, more alleged documents surfaced online, blurry scans of emails between Kirk and his attorneys, mentions of compensation and confidentiality agreements, fueled speculation that the contract wasn't the only secret being kept. Insiders claimed there were multiple documents, each layering more complexity onto the story. Social media erupted with discussions about morality, loyalty, and manipulation. Some fans condemned Kirk for allegedly controlling Jasmine with money. Others debated whether Jasmine had been a willing participant or simply playing her part to survive. In a high-stakes environment, the debates were heated, drawing attention from both mainstream media and independent bloggers. Rashida's behavior became a topic of intense scrutiny. In interviews, she spoke vaguely about betrayal and the cost of trust, often referencing loyalty without naming names. Fans speculated that every word, every pause, every carefully chosen phrase was aimed at Kirk and the leaked contract. Behind the scenes, friends said she was carefully weighing her options, considering both personal and professional repercussions. Some suggested she was preparing a legal response or negotiating a new business strategy to safeguard herself and her brand. Kirk, for his part, was under immense pressure. Sources claimed he became increasingly cautious, limiting public appearances and scrutinizing every interaction. Friends noted that he seemed distracted, constantly checking messages, and showing signs of paranoia. Every action was calculated to minimize further leaks and preserve his public image. But as insiders observed, the control he once wielded over the narrative was slipping. Fans were no longer willing to accept his carefully crafted statements at face value, and the power dynamic between him, Rashida, and Jasmine had shifted dramatically. As the weeks passed, tension escalated further. Private meetings, whispered conversations, and leaked messages became fodder for the rumor mills. Production crews reported a palpable unease on set, with cast members reportedly tiptoeing around sensitive topics. Jasmine's eventual return to public discourse was anticipated as a pivotal moment, and everyone seemed to sense that the revelation could redefine relationships, careers, and fan loyalty. The pressure was mounting, and Atlanta, along with the broader fandom, braced for the fallout. Then came another twist. An anonymous source claimed that Kirk had secretly set up a financial trust years ago in Jasmine's name, supposedly as part of the contract terms. The implication was chilling. He had planned meticulously for every possible outcome, attempting to control the narrative while ensuring compliance with the agreement. Fans debated whether this was a protective gesture or evidence of manipulation. The story grew more intricate, the stakes higher, and the emotional toll on everyone involved more profound. As January drew closer, Atlanta's obsession intensified. Restaurants, boutiques, filming locations all seemed charged with anticipation. Every move by Kirk, Rashida, and Jasmine was analyzed, every interaction dissected, every post speculated upon. Insiders reported that cast members felt the weight of history pressing on them, aware that the past 7 years were finally coming to light. The narrative had grown beyond gossip. It had become a multi-layered story of money, power, loyalty, and betrayal. Fans were hooked, and the drama was reaching a crescendo that promised to be unforgettable. By the end of the month, the city was caught in a web of speculation. Fans, media, and insiders alike were desperate to see the next move. The leaked documents, the whispered conversations, the tense confrontations all pointed to one undeniable truth. The storm was far from over, and the next revelation could change everything. The countdown to January 2025 had begun, and with it, the anticipation of what Jasmine would finally reveal, how Rashida would respond, and what impact it would have on Kirk's legacy. The tension was electric, the stakes higher than ever, and everyone knew that this was only the beginning of a story that would be talked about for years to come. The new year arrived with a sense of inevitability. January 2025 was here, and at Landand, the world waited with bated breath. Fans flooded social media with countdowns, speculations, and wild theories. Every post from Kirk, Rashida, or Jasmine was analyzed and reanalyzed for hidden meaning. Insiders claimed that the tension among the trio was palpable. Every glance, every word, every interaction seemed loaded with the weight of 7 years of secrecy. People who had once viewed Kirk as untouchable now questioned every decision he had ever made, while Rashida's calm yet controlled public demeanor only amplified speculation. And Jasmine, she had remained an enigma, silent and poised, like a shadow waiting to emerge into the light. Reports surfaced that Kirk had held emergency meetings with his legal team, producers, and family members in an attempt to contain the fallout. Sources suggested that he was frantically reviewing every potential scenario, trying to anticipate Jasmine's next move. Friends described him as tense, pacing constantly, and unusually quiet. A stark contrast to the confident persona he maintained publicly. "He knows the jig is up," one insider said. "He's never been this worried, not even during past scandals." Meanwhile, Rashida reportedly fortified her own position, ensuring her business, boutique, and public image were beyond reproach. Friends suggested she was quietly gathering evidence to protect herself should the situation spiral further. Social media exploded when rumors circulated that Jasmine had scheduled a private meeting with Mona Scott-Young, the mastermind behind Love and Hip Hop. Speculation ran wild. Was she planning to reveal the contract to the world? Was she negotiating a deal for a public statement? Or was this part of a more subtle, strategic plan? Fan theories spread like wildfire, with some claiming that Jasmine's silence for the past 7 years had been deliberate, a chess move positioning her perfectly for this very moment. Others suggested that she had been emotionally trapped, forced to wait until legally free to speak. Either way, the anticipation was electric. As the day approached when she could speak, insiders reported a series of intense confrontations between Kirk and Rashida. Witnesses described heated arguments at Frost Bistro, long private meetings in offices, and tense phone calls late into the night. Emotions ran high, one source said. Rashida wanted answers, Kirk was defensive, and nobody knew how it would end. The staff described seeing Rashida pacing, on the verge of tears, yet fiercely controlled, while Kirk attempted to calm her with half-hearted explanations that did little to assuage her doubts. The first public hint of Jasmine's intentions came when she posted a cryptic image on social media, a folded piece of paper with a pen lying across it, captioned simply, "Truth arrives in time." Fans immediately linked the image to the alleged contract. Screenshots circulated, and discussions surged across platforms. Every detail of the image, from the shadows to the handwriting, was scrutinized. Some argued it was a tease, a sign that she would finally confirm everything. Others believed it was a warning, signaling that her forthcoming revelation could devastate Kirk and shake the industry. Meanwhile, the alleged contract continued to dominate conversations. Leaked clauses specifying financial compensation, confidentiality, and liquidated damages fueled debates. Insiders reported that Kirk had meticulously drafted multiple versions, each more restrictive than the last. Fans debated whether this was evidence of manipulation or simply thorough legal planning. The narrative became increasingly complex. 7 years of secrecy, a promised $200,000, and now the looming day when everything could be revealed. Every actor in this drama was acutely aware that a single misstep could change the trajectory of their lives and careers. Tensions escalated further when whispers emerged that other cast members had been complicit in maintaining the secrecy. Some allegedly received subtle instructions to avoid certain topics on camera, while others were rumored to have been paid indirectly to support the narrative. This revelation intensified scrutiny on the show itself, with fans questioning whether storylines over the past several seasons had been manipulated to protect Kirk, Rashida, or both. Debates raged. Was reality TV showcasing genuine emotions, Or was it a meticulously orchestrated production designed to conceal a scandal of massive proportions? Behind closed doors, Jasmine reportedly spent hours reviewing statements, preparing for interviews, and planning every interaction with precision. Friends claimed she was calm, measured, and unyielding, fully aware of the power she held after years of silence. Her preparation was meticulous, and insiders suggested she had crafted multiple strategies depending on Kirk's response. The calculated patience of 7 years had culminated in this moment, and fans sensed that the story was about to explode in unprecedented ways. The tension reached fever pitch when Kirk reportedly attempted a last-minute negotiation, trying to persuade Jasmine to remain silent a little longer. Sources claim he offered additional incentives, private assurances, and personal guarantees to keep her from speaking publicly. Friends described the attempts as desperate, revealing a vulnerability rarely seen from him. But Jasmine, according to insiders, remained firm. She had waited 7 years. Nothing could sway her now. The contract's expiration date had arrived, and with it, the promise of transparency, confrontation, and dramatic revelations. As the day progressed, Rashida's public appearances became more pointed. Subtle comments in interviews, seemingly casual remarks on social media, and her composed but tense demeanor were interpreted as signals to both Kirk and Jasmine. Fans speculated endlessly. Was she subtly coordinating with Jasmine, preparing for the inevitable confrontation, or simply reclaiming her own narrative before the scandal could spiral out of control? The anticipation of a public reveal created a charged atmosphere, with everyone waiting for the first spark to ignite a new chapter in this complex story. Then came the first public interaction between Kirk and Jasmine since the contract's expiration. Sources claimed it occurred at a neutral location, carefully monitored by a few trusted individuals. Witnesses described the tension as nearly unbearable. Kirk appeared anxious, Rashida poised, and Jasmine serene yet commanding. Conversations reportedly centered around the contract, its implications, and how information would be shared publicly. Each participant seemed acutely aware that any misstep could become a headline, a viral post, or a segment in the upcoming season. The dynamics of power, loyalty, and betrayal were on full display, creating a scene that insiders described as tense, electric, and historic. As the interactions continued, the narrative expanded beyond personal relationships into the public and professional sphere. Fans speculated about business implications, potential fallout for love and hip-hop, and the long-term impact on the reputations of all involved. Social media debates grew increasingly polarized, with factions defending Kirk, others siding with Rashida, and a growing contingent praising Jasmine for her patience, courage, and strategic brilliance. The scandal had become a multi-layered phenomenon, blending personal betrayal, legal intrigue, and the high-stakes drama of reality television. The city itself seemed to pulse with anticipation. Media crews, paparazzi, and fans converged at locations rumored to be associated with the unfolding drama. Every movement, every whispered conversation, every new post was dissected for clues. Insiders reported that cast members were hyper-vigilant, acutely aware of the power dynamics at play and the potential impact of every decision. The alleged contract, once a private document, had transformed into a cultural event, shaping discourse, perceptions, and speculation across Atlanta and beyond. As January wore on, the tension remained relentless. The countdown to a public revelation continued, and insiders hinted that the upcoming week would be pivotal. Alliances had shifted, loyalties were tested, and the emotional stakes had never been higher. Fans, media, and industry insiders alike braced for the next move, aware that the culmination of 7 years of secrecy, deception, and strategy would soon be revealed, potentially redefining careers, relationships, and public perceptions forever. The following days were nothing short of explosive. Every rumor, every leak, every cryptic post seemed to escalate the drama to new heights. Atlanta's social media was flooded with speculation, reaction videos, memes, and countdowns to Jasmine's first public statement. Insiders claimed that Kirk was on edge, constantly monitoring mentions of his name, and scrutinizing every move by the production team. Friends described him as unusually quiet and tense, pacing for hours and revisiting old footage, trying to anticipate how Jasmine might reveal the truth. The man who had once controlled the narrative effortlessly was now reacting, a clear sign that the balance of power had shifted. Rashida's public image became an unspoken weapon in the unfolding story. She appeared at events and interviews with a poised yet controlled demeanor, dropping subtle hints about loyalty, trust, and betrayal. Her statements, carefully worded, sent waves across social media. Fans debated whether she was directly addressing Kirk or preemptively supporting Jasmine. Insiders suggested she had aligned with a few key allies to ensure that her side of the story would be represented once the contract was publicly discussed. The tension between personal integrity and public perception became increasingly pronounced, creating a dramatic chessboard where every move mattered. Jasmine's silence, ironically, was the loudest statement of all. She reportedly spent hours with advisors, legal counsel, and close friends, drafting statements, planning potential interviews, and preparing for questions that could arise once she went public. Sources claimed that her demeanor was calm, collected, and deliberate, reflecting a level of patience and strategy few anticipated. Fans speculated endlessly. Would she confront Kirk directly? Would she release evidence of the contract to the public? Or would she simply collect what was owed and walk away quietly, leaving the fallout for others to manage? Every scenario was debated, dissected, and analyzed in real time. Production insiders revealed the behind-the-scenes chaos. Meetings were reportedly heated, with executives and producers deliberating how to incorporate the unfolding scandal into the next season of Love and Hip Hop. Some cast members allegedly felt blindsided. Others were accused of knowing more than they admitted. The alleged contract suddenly had implications for storylines that had played out over several seasons. Fans began to wonder whether plot twists, conflicts, and emotional confrontations had been orchestrated or influenced by the secret pact between Kirk and Jasmine. The complexity of the scandal only deepened, blurring the line between reality and performance. One of the most shocking revelations came when an anonymous source leaked a series of messages between Kirk and his attorneys, showing detailed planning for Jasmine's financial arrangement. The documents reportedly outlined confidentiality clauses, compensation terms, and strict conditions for communication. Fans erupted over the apparent meticulousness of Kirk's planning, debating whether it demonstrated control, foresight, or manipulation. Every leaked message became a point of contention, further fueling speculation and fan engagement. Social media was ablaze with opinions, with some condemning Kirk, others defending him, and many praising Jasmine's patience and strategic brilliance. As the days progressed, the tension between Kirk and Rashida intensified. Insiders described private confrontations in which emotions ran high and accusations flew. One account suggested that Rashida confronted Kirk about his handling of the contract, demanding honesty and clarity. Kirk allegedly attempted to justify his actions, claiming they were intended to protect the family and maintain discretion. The exchanges reportedly left staff and close associates shocked, noting the rarity of such intense displays of emotion from the usually composed couple. Further complicating matters, speculation about other cast members' involvement surfaced. Some insiders hinted that certain individuals had been instructed to avoid questions, maintain silence, or indirectly support the narrative established by the contract. This fueled debates over the integrity of the show, with fans questioning whether storylines had been influenced by legal agreements rather than authentic interactions. The blending of personal secrets with professional obligations created a layered, high-stakes environment that captivated audiences. Additionally, reports suggested that Kirk attempted last-minute negotiations with Jasmine, offering additional incentives and assurances in hopes of maintaining silence a bit longer. Sources claimed he approached her with a combination of personal and financial persuasion. But Jasmine, according to insiders, remained steadfast. She had waited 7 years and was now free to act within the parameters of the contract. The tension of this standoff, combined with the anticipation of public disclosure, created a charged atmosphere that left both fans and insiders on edge. As anticipation built, every small interaction became scrutinized. Paparazzi and fans trailed the trio, analyzing body language, tone of voice, and subtle gestures for clues. Insiders noted that both Kirk and Rashida became hyper-vigilant, aware that even minor missteps could be amplified across social media and media outlets. The pressure on Jasmine was also immense, but her measured composure suggested a strategic approach to timing, messaging, and public perception. Every detail mattered, and the stakes had never been higher. Finally, just days before the anticipated disclosure, a series of leaks suggested that Kirk had secretly transferred part of the $200,000 into a trust for Jasmine years earlier. The implication was that he had anticipated the eventual need for discretion, planning meticulously to protect the financial arrangement and maintain control. Fans debated whether this demonstrated calculated foresight or manipulative intent. The revelation only added complexity to an already intricate narrative, heightening suspense and anticipation. As January drew to its climax, Atlanta seemed to hold its collective breath. Fans, media, and insiders monitored every development, aware that the culmination of 7 years of secrecy and strategy was imminent. The interplay of money, power, loyalty, and personal relationships had transformed the scandal into a cultural phenomenon. Every decision, every glance, every word carried weight, signaling the arrival of a dramatic, historic moment that would redefine careers, relationships, and public perception forever. The storm was not just brewing, it was ready to break. The day of the first public revelation finally arrived, and Atlanta was electric with anticipation. Social media platforms were flooded with posts counting down the hours, fans speculating endlessly about what Jasmine would say, and journalists preparing for live coverage. Insiders described the city as tense, with paparazzi stationed near every rumored location where the trio might appear. The atmosphere was thick with expectation, like a storm waiting to break. Every follower, every fan, every member of the cast seemed to feel the weight of what was about to unfold. Jasmine reportedly arrived at a private location, accompanied by her closest confidants and legal advisors. She was calm, poised, and deliberate, every step measured to convey both control and authority. Friends described her demeanor as resolute, like someone who had carried the burden of secrecy for 7 long years and was finally ready to reclaim her narrative. Every detail of her preparation had been carefully considered: the timing, the audience, the statement, even the subtle cues in body language to convey credibility and calm power. Kirk, on the other hand, was described as tense and unusually quiet. Insiders said he spent hours rehearsing possible scenarios, reviewing past footage, and consulting with attorneys on potential responses. For the first time, people reported seeing cracks in his usually confident exterior. Staff and friends noted that he appeared distracted, pacing constantly and checking messages obsessively. The man who had once controlled the narrative effortlessly now seemed to be reacting to circumstances beyond his control. Rashida's role was equally compelling. Sources claimed she attended the same location, her demeanor composed yet watchful. Every glance she gave, every word she spoke, was reportedly scrutinized by both insiders and fans. She was strategically positioning herself, ensuring that her story and reputation would remain intact regardless of the revelations about Kirk and Jasmine. Subtle remarks, slight expressions, and carefully controlled interactions suggested that she understood the power dynamics at play and intended to assert her presence without escalating the tension unnecessarily. The first interaction between Kirk and Jasmine was reportedly intense yet controlled. Witnesses described a conversation filled with careful words, loaded pauses, and subtle undercurrents of emotion. Kirk allegedly attempted to negotiate, offering reassurances and additional incentives in a final effort to maintain discretion, but Jasmine remained steadfast. Sources claimed she calmly reminded him of the original contract terms, asserting her rights and demonstrating the strategic patience she had exercised for 7 years. The exchange was tense, electric, and historic. According to insiders, a collision of long-suppressed truths finally meeting the public eye. Meanwhile, the media coverage amplified every detail. Social media exploded as screenshots, snippets, and live commentary circulated rapidly. Fans debated whether Kirk had acted out of control, strategic foresight, or manipulation. Discussion threads dissected Jasmine's every gesture and statement, with some praising her patience and strategic brilliance, and others questioning the ethical implications of the financial arrangement. The scandal was no longer confined to personal relationships, it had become a full-blown cultural phenomenon, dominating headlines, talk shows, and online debates. The leak of additional documents added fuel to the fire. Screenshots of emails, drafts, and messages between Kirk and his attorneys appeared online, each revealing meticulous planning for Jasmine's financial arrangement. Clauses about confidentiality, payment terms, and legal stipulations were highlighted, debated, and dissected by fans and media alike. Every revelation seemed to add a new layer to an already intricate story, increasing suspense and engagement. The public fascination with the scandal reached unprecedented levels, with debates, memes, and videos trending across platforms. Production insiders confirmed that the cast was navigating a delicate balance. Some members were reportedly caught off guard by the revelations, others were accused of having known more than they admitted. The alleged contract suddenly had implications for past storylines, prompting speculation that multiple seasons of Love and Hip-Hop may have been influenced by hidden agreements and strategic silences. Fans analyzed past footage, looking for clues and subtle interactions, treating every moment as a potential piece of the puzzle. Kirk's family, too, was reportedly affected. Insiders suggested that his parents and siblings were torn between defending him and confronting him about his decisions. Private family dinners were described as tense and silent. The atmosphere charged with unresolved emotions and whispered concerns. Friends indicated that the contract had introduced a fracture in relationships that were previously portrayed as harmonious, highlighting the personal consequences of the 7-year secret. As the day progressed, every minor interaction was magnified. Paparazzi and fans closely monitored body language, tone, and subtle gestures. Insiders noted that both Kirk and Rashida were hypervigilant, acutely aware that public perception could be influenced by the smallest details. Jasmine, by contrast, appeared confident and composed, projecting calm authority while preparing for the next steps in revealing her story. The interplay of emotion, strategy, and public perception created a charged atmosphere that left everyone, fans, media, and insiders, on edge. Then came the moment fans had been waiting for. Jasmine, in a carefully orchestrated statement, confirmed the contract, its terms, and her reasons for maintaining silence over the past 7 years. She spoke with clarity, confidence, and poise, acknowledging the complexities of the situation while asserting her rights and perspective. Her words sent shockwaves through the community, sparking debates about loyalty, manipulation, and strategic patience. The audience, both online and in person, reacted with a mix of shock, admiration, and intrigue, further cementing the story as one of the most dramatic and talked about moments in reality television history. The aftermath was immediate. Social media erupted, headlines multiplied, and fan engagement reached record levels. Debates raged over Kirk's intentions, Rashida's responses, and Jasmine's strategic brilliance. Bloggers, journalists, and influencers dissected every element, offering analysis, speculation, and commentary. The story had expanded beyond the personal to encompass professional, cultural, and ethical dimensions, captivating audiences across platforms. As the day came to a close, insiders noted that the dynamics had fundamentally shifted. Kirk, once in control, now had to navigate the consequences of 7 years of secrecy. Rashida had reclaimed her narrative while maintaining her composure. And Jasmine, after years of strategic patience, had emerged as the central figure in a drama that captivated a city, an industry, and a fandom. The stage was set for the next chapter, with anticipation for further developments, potential reconciliations, and new revelations that could continue to reshape perceptions and relationships. And now, after all the drama, the leaks, the confrontations, and the revelations, it's time to pause and reflect on everything that has unfolded. Imagine witnessing years of secrets, manipulations, and carefully orchestrated moves finally collide in the public eye. Fans around the world have been following every post, every cryptic comment, and every subtle glance, trying to predict what would happen next. The story of Kirk, Rashida, and Jasmine isn't just entertainment, it's a lesson in patience, strategy, loyalty, and the consequences of decisions made behind closed doors. It reminds us that even the smallest actions, the quietest agreements, and the unspoken words can have monumental effects when time catches up with them. For 7 long years, Jasmine kept her silence, a choice that has captivated fans and fueled countless discussions. Her patience, resolve, and strategic planning have been nothing short of extraordinary. While some may question the ethics of the contract, others have praised her for maintaining control over her own narrative. It's a reminder that sometimes the power lies in restraint, in waiting for the right moment to act. And as viewers, we are offered a unique glimpse into the complexity of human relationships, the balancing of personal and professional stakes, and the emotional toll of secrets carried in silence. Rashida, too, has demonstrated a form of quiet strength, navigating betrayal, navigating public perception, and maintaining her personal and professional integrity in the face of such a storm is no easy feat. Her responses, both subtle and direct, show a woman who understands the value of composure and timing. Fans have watched her carefully calibrate her public image, balancing loyalty, honesty, and self-preservation. It's a compelling reminder that in situations of high stakes, strategy is often as important as emotion, and that strength can manifest in many forms, not always in loud confrontation. And Kirk Frost, at the center of the storm, represents another side of the narrative. His attempts to manage the fallout, control the narrative, and navigate the complex web of agreements, promises, and expectations reveal a man facing the consequences of long-kept secrets. While fans may debate whether his actions were manipulative, protective, or simply strategic, The reality is that his story highlights the profound impact that secrecy and control can have on relationships, careers, and public perception. It's a cautionary tale about the costs of decisions made in private when the world eventually catches up. As a fan, a viewer, or simply an observer, there's something undeniably compelling about witnessing the intersections of secrecy, power, and strategy. Social media engagement, speculation, and analysis have turned a single contract into a cultural phenomenon, showing how deeply personal narratives can capture the imagination of millions. The story isn't just about who is right or wrong, it's about timing, patience, and the intricate dance of human emotion. It challenges us to think critically about the dynamics we see on screen, and to consider the unseen complexities behind every headline. Now, this is your chance to be part of the conversation. What do you think about the contract? Did Kirk act out of necessity or manipulation? Was Jasmine justified in her patience, or was the agreement ethically complicated? How should Rashida navigate the fallout moving forward? Your opinions, your theories, and your interpretations matter. Because this story doesn't just belong to the people involved, it belongs to everyone watching, analyzing, and discussing. Every comment adds a new layer, every perspective enriches the conversation, and every shared reaction keeps the drama alive and engaging. Engaging with this story isn't just about entertainment, it's about connecting with a narrative that spans years, choices, emotions, and consequences. When you like, comment, and subscribe, you become part of a community that observes, interprets, and reacts. You help ensure that the story reaches a broader audience and that the unfolding drama receives the attention it deserves. Your interaction fuels analysis, discussion, and fan-driven theories, keeping the story alive beyond the episodes, beyond the headlines, and into cultural memory. So, take a moment to reflect, share your thoughts, and engage. Did the secrecy serve Jasmine, protect Kirk, or complicate Rashida's journey? What would you have done in a similar situation? Could 7 years of silence be justified by the promise of financial security, or does the ethical cost outweigh the payoff? These questions aren't just for debate, they're invitations to think critically, to empathize, and to engage with a story that has captured attention for years. Your voice matters in this conversation, because every insight adds depth and dimension to the narrative. Remember, the drama doesn't end with the contract's expiration. As new episodes, interviews, and behind-the-scenes revelations emerge, there will be more to analyze, more to speculate about, and more to discuss. Staying engaged means staying informed, and by liking, commenting, and subscribing, you ensure that you're part of the community at the forefront of these conversations. Your participation allows you to contribute to a dialogue that spans fan perspectives, media coverage, and cultural impact, making every reaction and interpretation significant. So, don't hold back. Share your opinions, debate the nuances, and immerse yourself in the story. This is your chance to weigh in on a narrative that has captivated a city, an industry, and a global audience. Your comments, likes, and subscriptions are more than digital interactions. They're your voice in a larger conversation, a way to engage with the drama as it continues to unfold. And as we wait for the next chapter, the next revelation, and the next twist, know that your engagement keeps the conversation alive, vibrant, and evolving. This is your invitation to be part of the story, to think critically, to empathize, to analyze, and to share, to witness the consequences of secrecy, the power of patience, and the complexities of loyalty in high-stakes situations, to debate, to react, and to connect with a community of viewers who are just as invested in the unfolding drama as you are. Every like, every comment, every subscription ensures that you are part of this experience, participating actively in a narrative that has already captured the imagination of thousands, and will continue to do so for years to come. So, take a moment now, engage, reflect, and make your voice heard. Discuss Kirk's intentions, Jasmine's patience, and Rashida's strategy. Share your theories, your insights, and your reactions, because in a story this intricate, every perspective matters, every interpretation counts, and every interaction brings the drama to life in new and exciting ways. Stay tuned, stay engaged, and continue being part of a story that isn't just entertainment, it's a cultural moment, a lesson in strategy, patience, and the consequences of choices kept in the shadows for too long.